Hello GW and welcome to this week's headlines. I'm Willow Hasson. This week, President Biden announced a series of executive actions to prevent further gun violence and promised future changes to gun laws in response to the past two mass shootings last month that left 18 dead. He went on to reveal new rules on ghost guns, which are assembled at home and are harder to track, along with other actions to hinder unqualified people from obtaining dangerous weapons. Biden said these actions do not relieve Congress of the responsibility to act, and urged lawmakers to take up legislation for gun control, like background check requirements. Biden called gun violence a, quote, epidemic and an international embarrassment. The president also announced that he has chosen David Chipman to run the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, although it is unclear if the evenly divided Senate will support this choice. Biden has also been busy putting together a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. Ryan Anastasio has more.
Thanks, Willow. On March 31st, President Joe Biden unveiled his $2 trillion jobs and infrastructure plan aimed at fixing America's roads and bridges and solving issues such as climate change and care for people with disabilities. Biden's proposal, the American Jobs Plan, will be partially paid for by raising the corporate tax rate and global minimum tax. The corporate tax rate will go from 21% to 28%. President Trump had lowered the rate as part of his 2017 tax cuts. Biden's plan calls for spending $621 billion on transportation infrastructure. This includes $115 billion for highways, bridges, and roads, $85 billion for public transit, $80 billion for railroads, and $174 billion for electric vehicles. Another major part of the plan includes spending $400 billion on home and community-based care for elderly and disabled Americans. $650 billion will be spent on what is being referred to as infrastructure at home. This includes $111 billion for clean drinking water, $100 billion for broadband, $213 billion for affordable housing, and $100 billion for electrical infrastructure. The last part of the plan, worth $580 billion, will be spent on workforce development, manufacturing, and research and development. Here is President Biden talking about the American Rescue Plan.
It's the largest American jobs investment since World War II. It will create millions of jobs, good-paying jobs. It will grow the economy, make us more competitive around the world, promote our national security interest, and put us in a position to win the global competition with China in the upcoming years. It's big, yes. It's bold, yes. And we can get it done.
Republican leaders blasted the plan for not just focusing on traditional infrastructure projects and for raising the corporate tax rate. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said, quote, "I'm going to fight them every step of the way because I think this is the wrong prescription for America." It is expected that the reconciliation process will be used to pass this bill, as very little Republican support is expected. We will keep you updated here on Capitol Crossfire. Back to you, Willow.
Thanks, Ryan. Matt Gaetz, the Florida congressman who has been a fierce ally to former President Trump, is being investigated in the House for sexual assault and sex trafficking. The allegations against Congressman Gaetz began last week when a story leaked that he had had sexual relations with an underage girl, and it gained new ground when new evidence suggested that he could have also paid money through Venmo and given drugs in exchange for sexual favors from young women. While Gaetz strongly denies all allegations, the House Ethics Committee is conducting an in-depth investigation into all possible wrongdoings that could end with him being convicted of multiple crimes. These most recent reports have also gained traction within the Republican Party, as representatives like Adam Kinzinger from Illinois are calling for his resignation. In recent COVID news, Johnson & Johnson will allocate 86% fewer doses next week than the current allocation, according to the CDC. Last week, about 1.9 million doses were distributed in the U.S., and this week, 4.9 million shots went out. But next week will drop due to quality control issues at the plant in southeast Baltimore, run by Emergent Biosolutions. At the plant last month, a batch of vaccines were contaminated, and so about 13 million to 15 million doses had to be discarded. France's top regulator has announced that those under 55 who received the first shot with AstraZeneca should follow up with a different vaccine. This announcement comes after several European countries have suspended use of the AstraZeneca vaccine last month because of the risk of rare blood clots and growing skepticism. Europe's drug regulator is currently investigating the potential for risks of blood clots after the administration of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but so far no link is clear. The MLB announced it would no longer be holding the MLB All-Star Game in Atlanta due to new Georgia legislation that restricts voting rights. The announcement reflects a growing trend of major corporations calling out restrictive voting laws, with Delta Airlines and Coca-Cola also denouncing the law. Additionally, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced he would not throw the ceremonial first pitch at the Texas Rangers home opener due to the MLB's stance on Georgia's legislation. Although President Biden expressed support for the MLB's decision to move the All-Star Game, some Democrats and voting rights activists expressed concerns about the corporate response. Stacey Abrams, for example, commended corporations for speaking out against voter suppression, but advised them not to bring economic harm to Georgia's voters. That's all for this week. We'll see you next time.